What is up, everyone? This is James here with Magic the Brothering, and today I've got a legacy deck tech for you guys. And don't worry, it's budget. And it's also a deck that's fallen out of favor, and it also has my own unique twist on it. This is going to be Painter Mill. Alright, so as everyone knows, I love me some Mill. It's one of my favorite alternate ways to win the game. I also do love me some Tron and other ways to win as well. But this was my first deck that is my first foray into Legacy. And I know everyone's like, oh, Legacy, it's like $3,000. No, it's not. You can build something for pretty cheap. Take Wedge's Mono Black Reanimator deck. $200 to $300 depending on how it goes. I actually built Black Red Reanimator without any of the duels. That costed me about $200 for the Reanimator bits that I didn't own. So yeah, this mill deck is sort of on the pricier side because I got the masterpieces for some of the cards, and I also got the From the Vaults for a certain set of lands. This deck can be budget. There's also 2 cards in here that also sort of went up in price since I initially built it. So that sort of didn't help things either. They like doubled. So yeah, Legacy. Let's get into this. Off the bat right now, Painter Servant, namesake of the deck. 2-drop, 1/3 artifact creature, Scarecrow. As Painter Servant enters the battlefield, choose a color. Most of the time, you either choose blue or red or whatever. It usually just depends on the build of the deck. I usually just name blue so it can help me counter my opponent's stuff in case they try and do any shenanigans to try and prevent me from playing stuff. And obviously, as it goes, all cards that aren't on the battlefield, spells and permanents are the chosen color in addition to their other colors. So say something's green and Painter Servant's out on the battlefield. It's green, but it's also blue or red or whatever color you name. So yay, Painter Servant. This is obviously a 4 of in the deck. Hang on. There he is. I had to make sure I had all 4. Also, it's so pretty. So pretty. Next up, Grindstone. The second part of this combo. 1-drop artifact, 3, and tap it. Target player puts the top 2 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. If both cards share a color, repeat the process. Pretty much should know how the Painter Servant Grindstone combo goes. Name a color with Painter Servant. Next turn, tap Grindstone, and basically win out by milling your opponent because every card shares a color. So, yay! Also 4 of, and also I got the masterpiece in it. So, Leyline of the Void's up next. How does this work in the deck? Well, there's 2 other win cons I have in this deck, and they both revolve around Leyline of the Void. I think you should pretty much know the initial first one right off the bat, but the second one I actually had to find on Reddit. So, Leyline of the Void, everyone should know the Leyline process. Opening hand, put it in a play out on the battlefield at the beginning of the game. For Leyline of the Void, exiles everything, there's no graveyards in existence. So 4 of in the deck, I usually try and make sure to get these going off right quick. Here's the other card that most people usually associate with Leyline of the Void and Legacy. It's Helm of Obedience. 4-drop, X and tap it. Put the top card of target opponent's library into his or her graveyard. Continue doing so until you have up to X or a creature card in the graveyard, whichever occurs first. If the last card you put into the graveyard is a creature card, bury Helm of Obedience and put that creature into play under your control as though it were just cast. X cannot be 0. It's a lot of text there. It's very, very wordy, but basically put, for this deck, with Leyline of the Void out and Helm of Obedience out, you basically just name X being 1, because X cannot be 0, and just mill your opponent out. Because, since no graveyards exist, nothing goes in the graveyard due to the Helm of Obedience milling, just keep going and repeat the process over and over again. So it's a fun little way to say, gotcha. Here's the other way I had found to, sort of screw people over. Energy Field. This fun little 2-drop, it prevents all damage dealt to you from sources you do not control. When a card enters your graveyard, sack Energy Field. So it pairs really well with Leyline into the Void and or Rest in Peace, or both. I don't run white in this, so I just have Leyline of the Void. Energy Field hoses Burn, hoses Reanimator. Basically, again, anything that deals damage to you from opponents. You yourself can still deal damage to yourself, but that's damage you're doing to yourself. So you should go in this knowing how this should go out. Another 4 of in this deck. Now to the actual mill cards that traditionally aren't seen in mill. I only run 8. 4 of 2 different cards. Glimpse the Unthinkable is one of them, as per usual. Hang on, I did the same thing as I did with the Painter Servants. There we are. And then Mind Funeral is the other one. Again, both of them are all-stars in the... Actually, wait, no. I have 12. My bad. I misspoke. Because of Archive Trap. Because that's always fun. We'll get to Archive Trap in a moment. However, Brainstorm. A great card for Legacy. Instant 1-drop. Draw 3 cards. Put 2 back. As the old adage goes, you know, you can brainstorm wrong, but you just got to be really situational and very, very conscious of how everything is going with the board state and how the match is going whenever you play Brainstorm. So you got to be aware with it, but it's definitely helpful to have these in the deck, both as fodder for Force of Will and also just to help get to the lock pieces that you need. Archive Trap, our good buddy, especially with all the fetching that goes on in Legacy. You think it's just in Modern. No, Legacy does a hell of a lot of fetching. Whenever I was at SCG-Con and I was getting wrecked by Delver decks, I was like, man, I wish I had an Archive Trap. So, yep, our good buddy Archive Trap's in this deck as well. And of course, what blue deck cannot be without Force of Will? It's an all-star in everything it runs ever, and just basically is like, no. So, woo! Force of Will. Onto the mana base, I have basic islands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To go along with swamps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For polluted deltas. 2 watery graves. To be in place of the fact that I don't run Underground Sea, because F that, they're expensive as shit. That's like 2 student loan payments for me. And then the other card I had mentioned that I had foiled, and also sort of rose up in price, Ancient Tomb. Ancient Tomb, really good, helps me get my other stuff effectively. Yeah, it does 2 damage to myself because of tapping it, so it will do damage to me and all that fun jazz, but I mean, it sort of works itself out in the end. I also sometimes have been running Hedron Crab in the deck, just because Hedron Crab's great and is an all-star in any mill deck ever. However, I've been sort of trying to fiddle around with the numbers and see how things work. I'm gonna try and run a 2 of Ancient Tomb and also a 2 of Hedron Crab and see how things go. I have about, let me count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. With the Ancient Tombs in the deck, I have 20 lands. Without the Ancient Tombs in the deck, I have 16 lands. It sort of creates a conundrum in some cases for that. So, just gotta wing it and see how things go for the numbers for you and see how consistency is. My sideboard basically is the same as I had in my Modern sideboard. You know, Surgical Extractions, Profane Memento, Damnation, Laboratory Maniac, but I shouldn't have to worry about Leyline of Sanctity in Legacy because it's hardly ever really played. And it's such a quick format that it's just like, oh, hey, here it is. So there's that. I also run traditional Counterspell in the deck, or sideboard, because why not? Counterspell, it's effing great. So yeah, this has been my take on a sort of dead deck, but I'm sort of hoping to bring it back in fruition. So we'll just have to wait and see how the meta is, especially with the banning of Deathrite Shaman and Gitaxian Probe. I used to run Gitaxian Probe in the deck just to sort of help me get draws, but then I just sort of relied on Brainstorm more and more heavily. So I just run the Brainstorms as my draw engine. And again, Brainstorm, also good fodder for Force of Will. Same thing with Archive Trap and any other of the blue cards that I've gotten here. So yeah, this has been James with Magic the Brothering with a pretty spicy deck tech for Legacy. If you want to, hit us up on Twitter at brothers_MTG. You can also hit me up on Twitter at Abstract Marcher. I'm also on Reddit, username Abstract Marcher. You can also hit us up on Facebook at Magic the Brothering. You can send us an email to magicthebrothering@gmail.com, and you can also check out our website at magicthebrothering.wordpress.com. This has been James with Magic the Brothering, and hopefully y'all have a good day.